Welcome to Owl Basket Games. I'm Geralf and this is Vajandil. And currently we're going through games that we played in 2021. And the next game on our list is Hyrule Warriors.
Age of Calamity.
Calamity! Yes, that's a fun word to say, isn't it? So, for anybody who doesn't know what it's about or whatever, there's this whole massive series of games called the Warriors games. And basically it all started from this Dynasty Warriors series. And this is the Dynasty Warriors 2. I think the first game in the series was a one-on-one fighting game like Street Fighter and Tekken and games like that. But it was the second game in the series that really created this formula where you run around in a battlefield with your character, who is usually a general, and there's a lot of enemies around you, and your attacks basically sort of hit multiple enemies at the same time, and those enemies go flying around from your attacks, and it's really, really satisfying. So the Hyrule Warriors series is basically the Legend of Zelda series combined with that Warriors game formula. And there have been a lot of other games that have had a similar kind of like cross-ups being done. I know like there are Gundam games at least, and
Fire Emblem.
Fire Emblem, yeah, and then there's that Persona game has had one, and probably plenty of others. So for the Hyrule Warriors, there's actually two Hyrule Warriors games, and this is the second one, which came on for the Switch, and it's basically about, well, if you played Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, then you know that it sort of happens in the future, and there's the whole sort of past where a lot of things happened, and Breath of the Wild doesn't really, well, you get glimpses of what happened in the past, but you're living in the future, and this game sort of attempts to answer what actually happened in the past.
Yeah, and that's what I was most excited about, the story. Because think about it, it's so brilliant. You had this Breath of the Wild that had glimpses of the past, and then provide a game where you can, as a player, play that past, see how the characters ended up, or how their origin stories kind of, and how they ended up for the Breath of the Wild story to happen in the end. But there's the first caveat then, because it's not actually the true story of what happened in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, and by the way, this is not a spoiler. I don't consider it spoiler in any means.
Yeah, but I would say be wary that we might spoil some things depending on of how sensitive you are to what is spoiler and what is not.
Yeah, but like the one thing that you probably should know is that, as Vindil said, it's not what really originally happened. It's a little...
it's an alternate timeline.
Yes, basically.
It's actually it's a what-if scenario of what if the heroes didn't fail.
Yeah.
And that's kind of an interesting take on it.
And once again, I don't think that's a spoiler either, because like the whole point in Breath of the Wild is that you start in a world where the good guys sort of lost in the past, and it's sort of a basic premise, so once again, I don't think it's a spoiler really, but okay, you get to decide, so go on.
Yeah, about the story, because I like tragedies. I really looked forward to play a game where you will see everyone die and lose. because that's very interesting to me, and that would have been a very different approach. But what they ended up with was more of a you would have expected, more of a very safe story that no, you don't have to see people failing. This is actually an alternate timeline story of what if the heroes succeeded with this kind of a Deus Ex Machina egg-shaped Guardia robot that can travel through time and bring people from different timelines to fight or save the champions. So actually the start of the game is it's headed the way how things happened for Breath of the Wild happen. But then there's this one point where everything seems lost and the champions are gonna get there, meet their demise. Sort of the timeline it forks into a different direction, and that's what this game is gonna, from that point on, focus on, that alternate timeline.
Okay, we haven't really played all that many Warriors games, but it does seem like a common theme in these games. I mean, especially in these Zelda games, or the Zelda the Hyrule Warriors games, that they sort of take a tongue-in-cheek approach into the whole series. And because, as I mentioned, the whole Warriors series is sort of about you smacking hundreds of enemies on the head and them, flying around, which by itself it feels really good, but it's also a little bit silly. Like if you look at game footage next to each other from Breath of the Wild, where you're fighting mostly against one enemy at a time, or maybe a couple of enemies at a time, and then the Hyrule Warriors, where you're just swinging your sword around and hundreds of enemies fly to different directions. And of course, it's supposed to be a little bit silly. It's supposed to be very silly. And just the fact that they sort of went this alternative timeline route sort of helps them with that fact, so that they can tie in everything being more or less silly here and there.
Yeah, and they don't have to worry about how these heroes who can smash 1,000 enemies at a time fail to the point that Calamity Ganon comes up and Breath of the Wild happens. So it's a bit of a problematic thing to solve if they went that direction. Of course, I really like to think that if you really put your mind to it, they could have done a very strong story that would have really well explained why things happened, and the champions who could be so powerful suddenly start failing.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like, speaking of expectations, like, the thing that I was actually hoping that this game would be, because we already saw in the trailers and videos that there's going to be the whole map of Hyrule that's in Breath of the Wild, and there's going to be all these points of interest where you can do side missions and all sort of other things. So what I was sort of hoping was kind of a game where you have at least two different endings, where if you're strong enough, then you can get a sort of positive ending, you can change the world, and if you're not strong enough, then you sort of go to that, you get the ending that made what Breath of the Wild was all about. So that would have been really interesting, but instead it's very linear in terms of storyline, this game.
Yeah. One positive note is that the game, it really looks like a Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
They took the ready-made assets. I'd say that Nintendo just gave them everything and they could just make a game from it. And that's very commendable that they have had this kind of very deep trust to give them the stuff the Nintendo worked very hard on, and they gave them these assets to make another game.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
So basically, well, I wouldn't say music, but the sounds and the icons and all the other graphics, they look very Breath of the Wild-like. So that part was done very well, yes. But, well, speaking about the basic gameplay, like it's a Warriors game, and if you know Warriors games, then you know that they're mostly very, very similar. So, like, if you have to ask, are you going to enjoy this? If you've ever played a Warriors game and you've enjoyed like the gameplay, and you haven't played a million of the other versions and gotten tired of it, then you're probably going to enjoy this from a gameplay standpoint. But we do have some like criticisms about this game in specifically.
Yeah. The battling, it was very satisfying. We enjoyed the time we had with it. That there was a lot of game. I don't remember how many hours we played it. It's in there somewhere.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Well, whatever I say is going to be wrong, but it felt like a lot of hours. So at least like 40 to 100, something like that.
Yeah.
A lot of hours.
And we enjoyed it. We enjoyed going through the story, do all the missions, and we even did a lot of challenges, because there's also this little bit of side stuff you can do. There are side battles that you can fight, and you get some rewards from them, and you can level up your characters. And then from all the battles you get a lot of stuff and crafting materials that are stuff that let you unlock skills for characters. The map is full of these little points where you can there's a merchant there and you can sell them stuff and they give something in return.
Yeah.
Lots of these very small things you don't really need to do, but as completionists we really did everything we could.
Yeah.
All the collecting.
Yeah.
Because the collecting is very satisfying, because you just go and battle your favorite battles in the main game, and then you get all the stuff, collect all the stuff or treasures you need.
Yeah, and I think there were quite a few like pretty challenging side missions. So we really liked doing those. So in that sense, it was really good.
And I really liked the verbs, as in all the other Warriors games. There's lots of heroes you can play as, and that's I really love that they have perfected this side of, because that's the core of their games, to have many heroes with very different play styles, and that's evident in this game also.
Yeah.
And I found a lot of favorite characters, like Mifa was one, and Sidon and Impa I liked also.
Yeah.
There was fourth one, if I can remember. Did I use someone? Well, the bird champion.
Yeah, what was his name? I can't remember.
But I really like that it's a bird with a bow and arrow. So, just imagine how you would use that as a playable character fighting amongst enemies, and it was very interesting. I really love that they don't hold back to just let's give him a sword. That's very because a flying character is very OP if you really think about it. But they really made it work. Like you have these two levels of
altitudes.
Altitudes. You battle on the ground or in the air, and there are different attacks depending on where you are. and it was very interesting. And I really loved because that was very novel to me to have a character who flies and shoots arrows.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting, and he has this kind of a shadow character or the clone character who also flies and shoots an arrow, but has very different playstyle.
Yeah.
Even still.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing about these games is that, yeah, there's a lot of characters and they almost all have their own distinct play styles. But at the same time, it's not like, Street Fighter where you have to, play hundreds of hours to get into learn basic details about that character. Like, for the most part, you can do really well just by spamming one button. And then eventually you can, maybe what if I press this other button every now and then you pretty quickly start to learn very working combos.
And you kind of build up your own style within that character play style. You don't have to use all the combos. I actually didn't really use most of the same character's combos because just some specific button sequences I learned to do, and I stuck with those. And then sometimes I'm a little bit bored, but if I, like you said, use this other button, and it's very, very satisfying. You just can get on with it, and by playing the game, you get better, and you start challenging yourself as much as you want. Or you can keep pushing that one button, and you will succeed pretty well.
And one other thing that I sort of like, because as we mentioned, this is a tongue-in-cheek game based on the Zelda series, so it opens possibilities to experience characters that you wouldn't normally imagine that you would play as. Well, I guess, without going into spoiler territory, already you can imagine Zelda in her, if you look at Breath of the Wild, Zelda by no means looks like somebody who could be a fighter or who could fight or do anything in combat, but in this game, of course, she's using her Sheikah Slate to sort of conjure up items and throw them around using magnetism and all sort of abilities that Link uses in Breath of the Wild. And there's a lot of other characters that you sort of couldn't imagine seeing on the combat field just because, they're evil or they're on the wrong side or anything like that. So that's sort of kind of fun in the game. Unlocking these characters. I can play as this guy, and what I can play as that guy, and I wonder what kind of moves this guy has, and so on.
I saw you used Link a very lot, but was there any other?
There was, yes. I don't know if it's a spoiler, but there's one other character in the game who uses a heavy two-handed sword, wields it around very slowly, and it's really satisfying. So that's another character. I almost exclusively used Link and that other character.
Yeah, and Link does he have 3 modes or 2?
He probably even more. Okay. I mean, just like in Breath of the Wild, every character sort of as you do missions, you get drops, and those drops are sometimes different weapons. And like Link he has one-handed weapons that have come with a shield, and he has two-handed weapons. He has staves. And what else? I'm pretty sure he had at least a couple of more different weapons.
Did he have a sledgehammer or something?
Yeah, I think that's probably just a two-handed weapon.
Okay.
So all two-handed weapons were just two-handed weapons, except that staves are different. So go around poking with the staves and spears.
Two-handed sword was some kind of mode, and then the sword and shield, and then the staff.
Yeah. At least those 3.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure there were a couple of others as well. I just can't remember what they were.
But that was a nice curiosity for Link, that he's this not master swordsman, but master every weapon you can think of.
And there are some characters who only have one weapon, of course. They may have like multiple different types of weapons, but they're just, upgrades to each other. But there are some characters that have multiple play styles, even just within that one character. And that was pretty interesting.
That's all the positives I can give for the game.
Yeah.
We really enjoyed it, that's already said and done. But I really like to think what I would have thought about this game if we hadn't played the original Warriors game.
Yeah.
Because
so,
that really set our expectations for the second game.
So to give a little backstory, so as we mentioned, this is the second game in the series. So for the Wii U game, this is just Hyrule Warriors. There's no what do you call it, like a subtitle. Whereas this is the Age of Calamity. So we played this first, and well, there's also a definitive edition of this for the Switch. But we got this back when we didn't know about that. So.
And the difference is that the definitive edition has
all the DLC.
And that there was a lot of DLC, I gather.
Quite a bit, characters and stages and stuff.
And we just played the base game, and we still left something unplayed. No,
not all that much. I don't.
Yeah,
think.
We played it quite as much as we could, as the two of us could as a co-op. If there was any side stuff that only single characters or something can do, then but there was a lot of game to play in the base game, and we had no desire to get the DLC anymore.
Because I'm pretty sure we played like 100 of hours of this as well. So it's by itself, it's a really robust game. And actually that's one thing we didn't mention, or we did mention, but not clearly enough, I guess, that both of these games have co-op. And I think that's a really great thing. I don't know about other Warriors games, but it was just really great. I mean, the frame rate suffers pretty much in both games, but I don't know. I didn't really care about that. I mean, of course, the other thing is that the amount of enemies suffers also a little bit. But just the fact that you can play with another person, I think was just really, really nice.
And the coordination we could do it. You go there and I go there, and hey, is somebody going to take care of that? And I'm on it, and that was very fun. Have this kind of a one more dimension to game, just because we could play as a team.
Yeah. But what we were going about with this game, so the Age of Calamity is about Breath of the Wild and what happened 100 years before it. And the original Hyrule Warriors, this is just a Zelda mashup. This is like the ultimate fan fiction, I guess. In that, what if all Zelda like universes and timelines collapsed to each other, and you could just, play almost, well, I wouldn't say any Zelda characters, but, characters from all across, like, the Zelda universe. Like, characters that don't usually do fighting even in the series, like Midna from Wind Waker.
No, the Twilight Princess. Midna is... Oh, Medley. You're talking about
Medley. Yes. They have similar names. So, so like Medley from Wind Waker and Midna from Twilight Princess. And all sort of other characters like that. There's also a bunch of like hidden characters that are just really cool when they open up. There's even one that's, I won't spoil who it is, but it's like very, very large. You're sort of flying around the stage and the other player is like, dude, I can't see anything from behind you. Yeah, it was really great. But so as Viandil said, this sort of this was the basis of our expectations coming into the Age of Calamity. And in that sense, the Age of Calamity was a bit disappointing.
Yeah, I would also add that one of the expectations that came from the first game was because in the battles themselves, they were on large maps. Almost all of them were in very large maps. And there were some story points that, okay, now this place opened up, you can go there now. And some kind of linearity in those battlefields also. But it felt a lot larger. All the battles felt like you were in a war, in a battle zone, and you had to. We really had to coordinate with you a lot more in this first game than the second game, because there were enemies spawned here and there and there and there. If we didn't take care of them in very coordinated manner, then they would just overpower us, and we could lose the objective or lose the game.
Yeah. So basically, there are like I don't remember what they are called, but there's like spawn points or bases. I guess base was the term.
Yeah, there were bases and there were the smaller checkpoints type of things. Where there was kind of just a few enemies spawned at intervals. But the bases were very big, and if you didn't take care of those, then you were screwed very quickly.
Yeah. So basically, like Vanita said, it's a battlefield, and there are like enemy reinforcements coming in all the time, and so that means that you have to sort of protect various points there in the battlefield, like a strategic points or bases.
And sometimes there are some characters that, oh no, their health is dropping, you have to go save them quickly.
Yeah.
There were also those kinds of
variables
in the battles constantly.
Yeah, so there are like other heroes on the battlefield, and you have to not only make sure that you're doing okay, but that your allies are doing well as well. So it made the combat really or the strategic side really nice in this Hyrule Warriors game, because you really needed to coordinate and check the map and see what do you need to do and where do you need to be to defend places, and okay, now everything is fine, okay, now I can push the offensive and so on. And all of that was basically missing from the Age of Calamity. There are times when there's somebody another ally who is screaming that hey, I need help, but in actuality their health isn't actually dropping. You can just do whatever you want. It's just there to sort of give you the illusion that you're in a hurry.
And it wasn't even because of the difficulty setting. I think we used normal setting on the first one, and this second one we used normal, and then we upped it at some point. We put it on hard because everything started to get a little too easy.
Yeah, I think there's 4 or even 5 difficulty settings here, and I'm pretty sure that we started on normal and everything was really easy, so we put it to hard, and everything was still really easy, so we put it to very hard or whatever the next one was. And most of the game, I think we played with the hardest setting.
Yes, so it's not because we used easy setting or anything. We even made it even harder for us, and even still, it didn't have that satisfying. We're doing a lot of effort to win this battle. First of all, most of the maps on this game, they weren't as large as in the first one. They were more, at least they didn't feel as large. They were more linear.
Yeah, I think they're
corridors.
As big, but they're mostly corridors. Or even if they're not corridors, they are moving yourself through a corridor. So even if the map itself is large, it only opens up very specific parts, specific times. So you're moving it through it very linearly. And it's a gameplay decision that there are bases in this game as well, but they're not bases that you would need to look at that, oh okay, I need to go and protect that base. There weren't really scenarios like that. It's just okay, there's an enemy base, And yeah, it's just there, the enemy is just protecting it, and you can go there or you can just stand there for an hour and then you can go there. So there wasn't any of that like strategizing that was in the first game. So that was a bit of a bummer. Of course, like if you think, I can sort of understand why they took that part out, because we actually like failed, I think, some missions in this first game because of those, you know, it's not all that easy to look at the map if you're not used to it. And you can just be playing the game and then suddenly you get a game over and you're like, wait, what happened? So I can see why it like maybe confused a lot of people, and they decided to, you know, let's just take all of that out and just make it so that there's none of that in the game.
Yeah, but then it affected the gameplay very much. As we said, we really loved our time playing this game, but it didn't, at the end of the day, feel as satisfying of an experience as the first game did, because of the added challenge of keeping your... Because games are about the challenge and getting the satisfaction of beating the challenge. And if you don't have the time or haven't trained yourself to check the map occasionally, then that's more of a gamer problem or player's problem than the game's problem, because it added a very important layer, because we had to be mindful of the surroundings. And sometimes the bases got recaptured if we weren't careful. Whereas in this game it felt much like you cleared the base, now it's in your hands, and
it's going to remain that way. Nobody's going to challenge that base. So it's just, you have this like big area, but you can just go anywhere at the laser that you want. I guess like there were a few exceptions, but very few. I think it was specifically like this one, not even a story mission, but like a side mission where you had to like defend a place from enemy attack. But aside from that, and I remember like Viandil actually mentioned that while we were playing through the story mode, and I was just, you know, hopeful that, you know, okay, we're only maybe like 5 to 10 missions in, so maybe it's going to change, maybe there's going to be more challenge
tutorial
later. But no, it was just running through a corridor for like the entire game. And I guess like the optional missions were a bit more, you could say, interesting in some sense, and say they might have been just, you know, here's the whole map, you don't have to run through them in a specific order, you can just, you know, take whatever objective you want. But again, there wasn't any pressure with, you know, defending the objectives or anything.
And like I said, we had no desire to buy the DLC for the first one, because it had more than enough for us to play. We over 100 hours in, and not only the story missions, it was very nice, pretty long part of the game. You had a lot of game to play even, and we had to go back to them occasionally for some things, some collectibles and something like that. But then there's some kind of classic mode which had some kind of old Zelda style, like a Game Boy Zelda style map.
It's the map from the first Legend of Zelda. And basically every tile is sort of a stage on its own, and every tile or map sort of, or mission has sort of rewards. So in the map you may look at some part, okay, in order to get some item, or basically to open up the stage or open up the map more, we need a raft. So okay, you need to go do a mission that rewards you with a raft.
So it kind of had 2 or 3 kind of games in one.
Yeah.
In these different modes you could do, and we had a lot of game into game in that. And on the other hand, this game was just Age of Calamity was just the warriors part, and nothing, and the side missions, which some of them were very interesting, but it didn't add anything else. And we got a lot less hours in that game, and like with this game, we have no desire to buy any DLC for this.
Yeah.
We see no value in the offer.
There was there's a couple of more characters, but like we already played through pretty much the entire game.
Especially since, at first we were hopeful, okay, these are tutorials, maybe this becomes this Warriors game. And it never did. But maybe if it was like the first one, then maybe if the DLC had some more maps to play, then maybe then we might have wanted to play, but no, we didn't want to.
Yeah, I still want to go back to this someday.
Yeah.
And like, okay, maybe even buy the version for Switch, because hooking up Wii U is going to be a pain at this point as well. But
and we get the DLC stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe we are able to, or want to play even more sometime in the future.
Yeah.
But we had very high expectations, and you would think it was easy. You already had this. So what happened? You said it was a choice. And I can see that. But why did they make a choice? It's very contradictory to what Breath of the Wild is. It's the first open world Zelda game in many, many years. Since the first Zelda, except of a couple of games, you didn't really have an open world.
Yeah, the first
Zelda
one and
game.
the second one.
And so this first Hyrule Warriors feels more like a game for, or some side game for Breath of the Wild, because it feels more open world.
Yeah.
And this feels like the traditional Zeldas that came before Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty... I don't understand what happened. Why were they tied? Well, I think Nintendo gave them all the free hands to make whatever they wanted, but the game makers themselves somehow got tied to this, so we need to tell the story that was in this game, and somehow mentally tied them to this linearity. They really wanted to tell a story instead of give this fun giant challenge in forms of giant battle maps. And that's one of the reasons why I really think that if they had taken or decided to go with the story of what ended up to be Breath of the Wild, the tragic story, then maybe they could have taken this large open maps with giant, from map to map they get bigger, and there are bigger and bigger battles because of the Calamity Ganon is getting stronger.
Yeah.
They really could have tied it into a very satisfying gaming experience, where at the end it's up to you as a player. Like, I really liked your idea of 2 endings, that if you are not very good player, you would fail the last missions.
Yeah.
And that would be what happens in what becomes the Breath of the Wild. And if you are good, then that's the alternate timeline that you as a player create with your own skills.
Yeah. Or even as, like, I really think like that would have been really nice, you know, as you mentioned, to have like bigger and bigger battlefields, and that would, you know, up the challenge with that, you know, okay, now you have like bigger distances to travel. And, you know, there are several actually there's a lot of stages where you can change characters. So I think that could have been utilized more. So that you have to, put this character there and this character here and change between them so that you can cover the whole battlefield.
Yeah. I do wonder if they kind of had more of a time constraint with Calamity, Age of Calamity, because they had to follow what Breath of the Wild established. Maybe they were in more of a rush than with Hyrule Warriors, which they might have had the same amount of development time, but they only had to do just Dynasty Warriors and put some Zelda characters in there, and that's it. So,
I mean, clearly this game was like a love letter to the Zelda series. I mean, of course, it's a very silly love letter. Like, one of Link's weapons in this game is like the gauntlets of strength. And one of the moves, I guess the special move he has is, what does he do? He grabs he had the ball and chain from Twilight Princess, and he can just hurl it around, and one of the special attacks is that he strikes it on the ground and sort of lifts the entire world upside down, and that damages everybody around.
Yeah.
So this is very silly and very strange and very lovable. And also the soundtrack is amazing. It's like, I remember a couple of people like lamenting the fact that, Nintendo doesn't really want to put the legendary Legend of Zelda, like the theme, the overmap theme that was in the first game, to any of the modern Zelda games. But this has it, and it's like a metal cover. So it was really cool. And what else? What else was I talking about? There was a couple of things I wanted to comment on, actually. So as you mentioned, I don't think it was it might have been time constraint, but as we know from like reports that Nintendo usually doesn't really come and say that you need to do this way and that way. So we can be pretty sure that they had pretty open hands with these.
Yeah, but I mean the time constraints compared to what they had to make from the ground up.
Yeah.
Because that was a Dynasty Warriors game with Zelda stuff, and this they really had to think. They had to tie this to existing game.
Yeah.
And but continue.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And the other thing was what was it again? The time constraints. So this problem with the Age of Calamity might have been that they already like teased Breath of the Wild 2. I'm not quite sure, but I get this feeling that they were sort of making this as a sort of, we're sorry you're not getting Breath of the Wild 2 for quite some time yet. So here's a Zelda game for you in the same universe. I sort of think that was one of the things why this game came out at the time that it did. And even the DLC feels like, we're sorry that you're still not getting Breath of the Wild 2. So here's some DLC for the Hyrule Warriors game.
Yeah, because I really like to think that the Koei Tecmo, they did everything they could to make a good game. And I always want to first and foremost think that there was some kind of constraint, usually in time, how much time or resources they had to make it happen. And it really feels like that way, that they really had to rush it, or like I said, they somehow accidentally tied themselves with the story too much. Even though you say it is a tongue-in-cheek, but it's nothing compared to how tongue-in-cheek this short one is. So they were really, maybe they were really worried about the fan backlash, or not necessarily the backlash, but they themselves are fans of Breath of the Wild and really wanted to honor the game at the same time as being a Dynasty Warriors makers. that's tongue in cheek, and maybe they were really had a really hard time balancing that very fine line of honoring a game and making it a game that they usually like to make.
Yeah, because to me it feels like it felt like they really wanted to honor Breath of the Wild, but it felt like they did it in the wrong way. As in, they did it like, oh, Breath of the Wild has an amazing story, let's honor the story, which is not what Breath of the Wild is all about. Breath of the Wild was all about, you coming out of the chamber of 100 years of sleepery, whatever it was, and you come out of that chamber and, here's the world. Do whatever you want. And like, sure, Age of Calamity, as we mentioned, it looks really nice. It looks really Breath of the Wild-like with all the icons and the sounds. But it doesn't feel like Breath of the Wild just because, of that linearity. It feels like it did exactly the opposite of what Breath of the Wild did for all the other Zelda games, which we're, like, after Ocarina of Time, they've been getting more and more linear. Whereas Breath of the Wild, okay, let's make everything open world. Let's give all the, you wanna go jump off that cliff, go and do it. We're not stopping you. And this sort of, it almost feels like they sort of looked at the, like the response to this game only, and it was like, people were maybe saying that this game is hard, and, I keep losing because my bases keep getting captured, and I don't like that. I just want to be here and I just want to hit at enemies, and they were like, okay, let's simplify it for this. That's my theory for what happened.
Yeah.
That could have been time constraints. It could have been like they just looked at the wrong response from the game.
I'm a little bit interested how this ties into, I don't know what Dynasty Warriors number is out currently.
Ooh.
But the latest one I know, was it 6?
I think it's 17 or
16.
Something. Yeah, 16
but
probably.
The latest one in these couple of years. One long-time Dynasty Warriors fan, all the long-time Dynasty Warriors fans really hated that game. They took a direction fans didn't like at all, and I don't remember what the reason was, because I didn't really look into that much more. But I'm just thinking if there's some kinds of changes happened in the company that is evident in between these games too.
Yeah,
that there's
that
some kind of creative director changed, or something in the creative side happened, or I don't know. But yeah, there's some trouble being in the Dynasty Warriors fan base because of the games haven't been up to par to what the fans have been expecting from the previous series. That's a very long series that's really established a very firm fan base. That they really know what they want, and they weren't happy with the latest Dynasty Warriors games.
So this game is from exactly the year 2000, so it's 22 years old series at this point. And actually, now that you mention it, I think there was some like open world Dynasty Warriors game at some point, and it was very much criticized because it's an open world game, but you're just riding on a horse and there's nothing to do there. So they didn't really do an open world game very well. I don't know if that was before or after this. So it might have if it was before this, then it might have been like a sign for them, or maybe Nintendo say that, don't do it open world, just do it like you do normally. But once again, like, this isn't an open world game. But still it was, the strategic element was there, and in this game there's next to no strategic element there. It's just like, as we mentioned, we played on a really hard difficulty, but it doesn't like affect anybody around you. It's just your character, how much damage the character takes and how much damage the enemies can take. So it's all about the sort of single player combat, what it affects.
Which was very satisfying. The characters were very fun. And we tried all of them, and like you heard from us, that I like different characters and he liked different characters. So there's that value there. It was a fun game, and if you like just to turn off your brain and smash enemies with your favorite characters, or change it up with trying out different character per mission, then that's up to you, and you can get a lot of fun from that.
And also regarding like how difficult the characters are to like sort of control, as I mentioned, it's not Street Fighter, so there's, if you're looking for something that you're not going to like master after hundreds of hours, then this is not the game for you. But there were some characters that took a bit more like brain works, like some characters that I who was the what is that dark-skinned tribe of women?
Gerudos.
Yeah, the Gerudos. So there's at least that one Gerudo fighter who uses like lightning. So just, the fact that you have to keep track of like the lightning power and to quickly press a button after her combos to sort of quickly refill her lightning meter and so on. So there's some characters that require a bit more like ability or learning. But then there's some characters that are much easier. And personally, I really like this kind of game style where you just, the core gameplay is, good enough that you just go doing that over and over again and you learn naturally over time.
Yeah, so it's not a complete disaster. We are just kind of a nitpicking here.
Yeah.
Just because of the legacy it has.
Yeah, I mean, if we hadn't played this, then we wouldn't have really anything to nitpick about this, probably. Except I guess, as we mentioned, the frame rate does drop here and there. I don't know, I personally, I never really... I don't really care about frame rate in this kind of scenarios, because especially with characters like these and with moves that feel really powerful, especially the special attacks, to me the frame rate has always been like I'm old enough that in my youth game developers were using frame rate, or basically like low frame rate, as a means to make your attacks feel more powerful, because they add like this slowdown to the game, and that's sort of what my brain reads it as, instead of like, oh no, the game is lagging, oh no, this is horrible. It just feels like, oh, this move is now more powerful because it's more slower. So I didn't really care about it. But if you're somebody who wants everything to run at 60 frames per second, then the multiplayer isn't going to do that.
And it's not a precision game, and the high frame rates, if it's very precise, needs very precise button presses and timings, but you can just change your buttons.
Yeah.
And it will work with the frame rates dropping or speeding up. The frame rate doesn't affect gameplay that much, at least in my experience.
Yeah, now that you actually mentioned, I really want to give props to the button inputs in like these games, because like if let's say you have like the Y button and you press that 3 times, and then like while your character, like you can just press the Y button 3 times, you don't really have to worry about the timing. But if during the second attack your character is still doing the second attack, you decide, oh, actually I wanted to do a different move, you can just press another button and it sort of overrides that last attack. So now you're doing a YYX, even though you pressed Y 3 times at first. So it's really nice and neat, the input system. And like, well, that's the great part of the game, that the controls work really well.
This is a what if scenario. What if we never got the Hyrule Warriors? I was a little bit iffy about the game. And if this was what we decided to buy, would we really wanted to buy the definitive edition of this? I think this was nice to play, but it didn't leave any thirst to play more.
Yeah.
So because of this game, we wouldn't probably buy the second Warriors game, or the if we found out that this is actually way better. We've heard rumors or stories about this game being better, then maybe we would have bought it then. But because of this game, we definitely bought this game.
Yeah, we wanted more. We wanted more of this. And sadly we didn't get it, so now we sort of want to go back to this. But yeah, I think you're right in that if this was all we played, then we probably wouldn't want to play this game unless we heard that somebody said that this was just much better.
Yeah.
And it's great that both games have multiplayer, and I think like if you have children or anything, and like you have 2 children, siblings or whatever, and you just want them to have a really fun button masher, or maybe you have 1 child and you want to play with them, then these are really nice games to do that. I think one final difference that I want to point out, of course, the Age of Calamity has a lot of like resource gathering, and there's a lot of moving around the map and combining weapons and I don't know, like melting weapons into materials and combining them. So that part is sort of that was basically the time when Vandil tuned out and I was just doing that all by myself. So in that sense, it's not completely 2-player experience. Was there any missions that were 1-player only? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that every mission allowed a co-op. Even if it was a mission like that forced you to play a certain character, it still allowed the second player to come and be whoever they wanted. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think it was like that.
But that was our review of Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, and I guess at the same time very much Hyrule Warriors review as well. I still personally like if you're buying a game for small children who aren't very good at gaming, then I guess I'd suggest Age of Calamity instead, because
it's still fun times.
Yeah, it's still fun times, and it's simpler. So if you think it's for a small child who may have like a lot of trouble with strategy and so on, then this may be a little bit too hard. But other than that, if you're buying it for yourself and you're not afraid of that, then I definitely suggest getting the first one.
Yeah, it's on Switch as the definitive edition. So if you have a Switch and you can choose between the two, then for the challenge you should go with the first Warriors game.
Yeah. And I wouldn't even say that it's like a super hard challenge. Like we're not talking about, I don't know what to compare it with.
Dark Souls.
Yeah. But it feels more satisfying, more like an achievement to get things done in this game.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for watching. We've been Geralf and Vyandil of the Owl Basket Games. And if you have any of your own experiences with these games, be sure to comment down below, and we'll see you next time with the next game.
Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.